Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
Life is strange and hysterical and sad and beautiful, and I'm open to like any crazy turns that it takes. You know, we were talking about this with Vic earlier, like the world came to the shutdown, and then like you hand these lemons, you make lemonade, whatever. And so we met these really beautiful people doing these live streams. Come on to my house.
Andy and Kim.
Andy, yes, or Kim Ware, you know. And met, so many just beautiful people. One of them is here right now. I'll introduce him in a second. But cheers, thank you guys for watching. Thank you to the Star Bar. We're at BLT Fest 2. We hope to continue doing this, and it's just us celebrating life and loving music, like the things that matter. You know. T-Chesh. Shout out to our brother James. Shout out Greg and B. Kinch, my partner in R.E.M, Cassie. Everybody, JP, Jon
Phipps. Woohoo!
Yes. Yeah, and we were going to have you on at a BLT Fest, talk about another record by this band.
So the first BLT Fest
that we
had
at
Wallers,
with Daniel Gay.
We had
shout out Daniel Gay. We love Daniel Gay.
You had picked Murmur.
Yes.
And then at the last minute, you weren't able to make it, so we went ahead and did Murmur and gave shouts out to you.
Yeah, we talked about it for you.
Yes.
Yes, but we also knew that once you were able to be in town, you'd get to pick another record.
Yeah, so glad to hear. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
And naturally, I decided to continue down the R.E.M discography.
Good segue. Good segue. By the way.
Reckoning, which is great because it's actually. Because it is their second album.
It's kind of an easier album to talk about anyway, so don't worry about it. Like, yeah.
I mean, you think so?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Well, only because I've been listening to it this week.
There you go.
As
have I.
Well,
so when it's fresh in the brain and the crotch and the heart.
Well, now I'm interested to know why you said yes, because your original pick was Murmur, but you're saying that Reckoning is easier to talk about. And what's your reasoning for that?
Well, it was. I think the songs on it is sort of the ones that I first came to know of R.E.M.
Oh, that's it.
Because South Central Rain and Don't Go Back to Rockville is 2 tunes that I heard very frequently on
they were
radio
they were
growing
on college
up.
radio. Yeah.
But this was beyond college radio. This was on just your standard 100,000 watt FM stations. Shouts to 95.7 The Ride, not WRFX. But WXRC.
So this is in North Carolina.
Yes, it is.
We have to say that you are all the way here from North Carolina.
He's a North Carolina kid.
I mean, obviously that wasn't your first introduction to R.E.M, right? Because you are a lot younger than us, so you would have heard.
Well, it would have.
He's a lot younger than us, but he's an old soul.
He is an old soul for sure. But like, as far as what was out when you like. What was your first that you actually heard? Was it?
I believe. Well, it was those 2 songs. It was "Losing My Religion," of course.
Yeah.
It was "Fall on Me."
Beautiful.
It was
"Fall on Me" was my favorite.
Yes, indeed, one of mine too.
It is crazy to think that like when I me and my girlfriend in 1988, 89 saw them on the Orange Tour in New York. You
saw them at Meadowlands?
Yes.
Madison Square Garden.
Meadowlands.
Green.
Green. They had a song called Orange Crush.
Yeah. They did have a song called Orange Crush. And I'm pretty sure.
My point being is you weren't even out of your dad's penis yet. Like, but you're this old soul. You discover this. That's the show. You get anything you want.
Yeah,
but like it's amazing because like what's great about the show is you and I say you have impeccable taste, and then you go, Tom, you have impeccable because we have very similar taste in music. But like, and such a great band because they're a spiritual band. They're like really there's like a southern gothic to it.
I think it's more like you can tell that all of them really pour their souls into it, and then like I think the spirituality really comes and
that might be the wrong word.
No, I mean, but I do kind of agree because it really does kind of like
it's
take
like
you
American
to a place
Southern Gothic.
That's yes, because it's very romantic, but it's also dark, and it is like. But I'm interested. So if these were the first, like if some of the first songs you heard,
they were the second version of the song. He heard the big songs, then he looked and found these.
But then why? I'm interested then why your first choice was Murmur.
Well, Murmur was because that was the one that sort of like reached out and grabbed me first
does,
because of when I first started getting into REM heavy duty. I've listened to Murmur through
It's so
probably
beautiful.
10, 15 times since I first
Like the
discovered
whole
it.
thing, and you just dive in. And the thing about music and why we do this show is, and we love this and having guests like you is, like for me, it's like it's such a weird relationship. In some ways, it's like a marriage. Like when a band like I've been in bands where they break up, and I feel like I got a divorce, like it's heartbreaking. And you feel the way when you're a fan of a band, like when a band breaks up, whatever, you know. And like I remember, like, and I've talked about this a lot on this show. It's like I had 2 posters on my wall in 1985. The Cure, Boys Don't Cry, and the Psychedelic Furs, and still 2 very important bands to me. And they were so special to me, but I didn't want them to get any bigger than they were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You wanted to keep them special to you. Yes.
Yeah. And like it's such a weird but beautiful like relationship you have with these artists.
I think, well, for me, so I got into REM. I'm trying to remember. It was Green.
Yeah.
That
I
was,
got into them in New York, but then when I moved to Atlanta, I was like, what? These guys are gods.
well,
like,
so Green came out and they were showing some of those videos on 120 Minutes. And honestly, I got so into them that it took me back. Like they were a band, and I don't do this with many, that I actually went back to their back catalog and started listening and realized that like Murmur is my favorite. And then and I would say like their next 3, like Reckoning, Life's Year's Pageant, Fables of Reconstruction, those are probably like neck and neck for me. Like they have
they're
different.
both so different though.
They are so different, and they really are, but they still have that REM feel. And they're the ones that actually brought me to
make you want to go to Athens. That's
to make
it.
me apply
Like
to
you
school at
chose where you're
Athens.
going to live and go to school because
Right, because of, yes. So I always associate REM with this very particular time in my life that I think their sound also equates to, where it's like you're kind of, it has this feeling of kind of isolated and a little dark, like depressed, but still so
it's such
beautiful.
a weird thing because like the best thing about music is, if you're lucky and if you're a fan, which we are, like every time, it's like with a great book or a great film, like you see or hear things you haven't heard, like, you know, like sometimes I hear R.E.M. and I'm like, oh, they're this American South version of like New Order.
Yeah.
Like the bass line.
Precisely.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like it's amazing.
All
Give
the songs
yourself
and
like
all the-
45 minutes or an hour like to listen to the whole thing. Whether you're cleaning the house or you're on a drive or whatever, like that's when you're allowing like your brain and your ears and your heart like to open up, and that's where you like really like you hear things differently, you understand it. So it's so beautiful.
And that's the thing about great albums. It doesn't matter if they have singing on them or not. Some of the most listened to albums that I've ever had, there's not been a word spoken on them. Like there's a great French Algerian guitarist named Pierre Ben Suzanne, and he put out an album maybe closer to 25 years ago called Intuit. And
nice. Write that down.
it's mostly instrumental, but there's some like scat singing and a couple songs with lyrics in there. But it's just the way the music makes you feel. Like there's been times where I have been in the deepest, darkest holes, and I've just listened to albums like that, and it's just brought me right back to the surface. I know we're talking about everything but Reckoning at the moment.
That's the idea of the show, and that's what. Well, we all agree. Music is magic, and like you know, that's the most beautiful thing that it can do that. You know, and I love that.
I would say, based on like what you're saying, I think that's one of the things that. Okay, so REM, especially the earlier stuff, when Michael Stipe had a lot more cryptic lyrics, and his vocals weren't like, he didn't enunciate as much. You didn't necessarily know exactly what he was saying, and a lot of people had a problem. You know, have like.
Well, he might not get straight to the point.
Yes.
Like,
in high school when I really got into them initially. I mean, I took creative writing classes because we were allowed to, you know, they were offered those.
Right.
And that was always my writing style. My writing style was always, it meant something to me, like the imagery that was going on. And I would say something and it's like maybe other people didn't get it, but they could take that and apply it to their life or their feel. And I love that his lyrics, even if you don't know exactly what he's saying, or they're so cryptic that you don't know what his meaning really was when he wrote it, it doesn't detract at all.
I mean, I know for me as a writer, I couldn't be any more opposite.
Right.
But it still doesn't matter how much I met him, like, you know, and chatted with him, you know, and like it doesn't matter, like, still much love and respect. But then when you hear like 20 years later that like Tom York from Radiohead says that's his biggest influence, like that's amazing.
Right.
I mean, you know, like holy cow.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like and because it really doesn't matter. It's like enjoy it, take it the way you want, and then leave and go do the stuff the way you want to do it. You know what I mean? Yes!
I have them all on tape.
There we
These
go.
are the original tape that I had. But yeah, it's like so when you first heard it, like when you first heard the R.E.M. songs, what was it about them that really that connected you the most? That really that because you obviously love this band like I do. So
they're your Beatles. They're your
Yeah.
Beatles. Yeah.
And what was it that you when you knew, like when you
I don't really know, because I was probably like 10 or 11 when I was first hearing like South Central Rain, Don't Go Back to Rockville. But it was just, I think it was just the sound of it. Like it was, you know, it was apart from anything that was playing on WXRC.
Sure.
Right.
It was just this.
And their stuff has like dream sequence like feels to it.
And honestly, like I don't know you very well, but I can tell that you're a romantic, like you are, and there is. It's not like in your face romantic, but R.E.M. old R.E.M. especially is very romantic. It's I mean it is, and so when I was living on Fort Knox and going back and revisiting a lot of the older R.E.M. and I was writing a lot because I didn't really know, and you know, just I knew people from community college, but I didn't connect with any of them. And my mom had gotten me a Nikon camera, and I went and I took a lot of pictures. And so I brought some of them.
Holy cow!
Because this type of thing, like some of these are like kind of destroyed, but it's the type of thing that like makes me feel R.E.M. because it is like very Americana, like jangly,
very
old South.
R.E.M. like, yeah.
Yeah, there's something about the, and I think that I was listening so much to that, and I was writing a lot.
It's not black and white; it's brown and white.
Well, yeah, it's the sepia tone that I always think is like really romantic. Like I think sepia tone and like I don't know, it's like it always like, and something about them because they're all like kind of like dilapidated barns with signs and stuff.
Totally.
And it's like
they love that.
And I feel that when I hear R.E.M., I feel like this almost like sadness for loss, but also optimism. I mean, it's like, you know, and
I love that.
And so that's the kind of thing that I always connect to when I listen now, especially since I don't know that since that period of my life. Because right after that, I moved to Athens. You know, I met James. I met Brian Kinchlow.
Shout out James Joyce and B. Kim.
Brian Kinchlow introduced me to Tom.
I mean, I wouldn't have met Cassie if it wasn't Brian.
So it's like I don't think that I've listened to this like in detail, especially not this record.
And we talk about this all the time. The best thing about the show is like, I know this week I'm going to listen to this record 3 times, and I'm going to listen to it differently because of you.
Yes.
So thank you, JP.
It took me back to this time. Like it had been probably like at least 20 years since I've listened to this, and it's like it took me back to that time, and like it took me back to those feelings and that emotion. And I love how music can do that.
It's magic. And the best thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And the thing about that, talking about R.E.M., is that you sink your teeth into them, and then you hear they're from Athens, and then you get this image in your head, and you just start hearing of all these bands that come from Athens. You're like, oh my God, I've got to get there. Then you finally get there, and it's like, oh my God, this is what I envisioned times 10,000.
Oh wow.
It's just. And by the way, shouts to Renee Jaworski.
Shouts to Renee
because
Jaworski,
she is the main reason, aside from R.E.M., that I got to Athens. But
well, she's the reason we met you.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan. She's a partner of mine.
I'm a huge fan.
We do TV. We do stuff together. She's
shouts to Burn It Down.
Amazing human. That's kind of awesome. I love living vicariously through people because I mean I've played at the 40 Watt, George Theater, pretty awesome to say that I've done that, whatever.
Yeah.
But then hearing, and I've seen you like post pictures, you're like, I'm outside the 40 watt.
Yeah.
It's like, so-and-so played here. Like, you know.
That's how I am about any venue. I could be in a basketball arena just watching a game.
Sure.
But the main thing will be just going through my mind. It's just, oh my God, the people it's played here.
I shot some commercials for Adidas in like 2017 in Madison Square Garden underneath it, and going in these back rooms and there's like huge posters like Sinatra and Muhammad Ali and stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm here. So you're like, I'm where this stuff happens.
Yeah,
main events.
Like when I went to Duke earlier this year to catch my first ever Duke game. By the way, shouts to the Blue Devils.
Shit, man, I can't do that. I don't follow college basketball. Cassie's like, man, Tom.
I don't sports ball. I don't sports ball.
Yeah, we like smoking hot volleyball players.
I like some soccer. I like.
But yeah, sitting there.
We like some footy.
Sitting there in Cameron Indoor, I'm just thinking, okay. R.E.M. I know they did two fantastic shows here when they basically kicked off the document tour in Cameron Indoor, and I've heard those bootlegs, and they're just like, from beginning to end, they do not take their foot off the gas.
Well,
they just
go. So here's a thought. I was talking to Mike Sheena the other night, and we were chatting because a friend of mine went and saw a bunch of these last few BBC2 shows, you know, and I mean, we kind of like make light of these things, but like that band was like part Ventures, part Devo, like part disco, part punk, whatever, and they were like came from outer space, and even though they're from Athens, really more than anything, sound like a New York band.
Oh yeah.
But R.E.M. sounds like an Athens, Georgia.
R.E.M. sounds like an Athens
you know
band.
You know what I'm saying? Like being accused, they
laid
the
the
New York, were hanging out with a bunch of beautiful queens and queers and drag queens and having a blast. Like R.E.M. was straight up.
There are a lot of bands, and even smaller bands that I saw that came from there. And I don't think there's anything. I know part of my imagery and part of like what I think of, what I've always thought of Athens, came from like their sound and like the imagery that I saw on like the covers, like the cover of Murmur with all the kudzu and stuff. But when I went there, it's exactly like you would. Like
and
there's
then you see the videos, you walk through a bar, and you're like, yeah, I see it.
Well, so speaking, and I know that I have this. I know I have it, and I'm sure it's at my mom's house still. But like the first side, the left side, because they're not side one and side two, but the left side, it was a short. Like they made a video, like that was like a video of all these songs. Like it was basically like a little like small thing that you could buy with them like playing around at the Finster house.
Right.
Yes.
And I remember having that, and it's like I've never been to Finster. I remember having that video and having that. It's like this weird quirkiness that Athens has.
I mean, I met Michael Stipe a few times in Athens, and I met him a few times in New York. You know, but like I remember every time like my old band REM boys played in like Athens, like best friend Marla would be like, yeah, let's drive by Michael Stipe's house, and you just drive by and you look at it like. That's my guy. And I've been to Peter Buck's house, and hung out because we met his ex-wife and who owns the 40 Watt. And
my God.
And I spent the night there. It was awesome. It was amazing.
Well,
and there's like pictures of Hank Williams, like original photos, unreal, and it's beautiful home.
I already told him, like in the Murmur episode that I did talk about like the one time that I had this conversation with Bill Berry, like on a Halloween party. We were walking back, and he was on a porch. We didn't know who we were talking to. We were just having this little conversation, and then when he stepped in, it was like the moon was really bright, and like you could see who it was, and then we're just like, gotta go. Not because, but it was more like because there's like just nerve.
So a really good friend of mine, shout out Jay Ty, who does not at all come from a music or punk rock background, but he's so badass that I nominated him, and he's part of I Choose Awesome. And I even introduced him to Darren Sanders one day in New York, and I said, you guys meet and the world's gonna explode because you're both so positive. And he even though he doesn't come from that background, that's what makes him punk rock. Like he's just so like beautiful about stuff and just love stuff, whatever. And he's like, yeah man, we went to dinner with like this girl I went to high school with the other night, and like we're hanging out and this, that, and her and her boyfriend, she's lived with for like 15 years, whatever, and we're having dinner, and like 4 hours I was drinking this, that, find out it's Mike Mills. Mike Mills. That's the bass player.
Mike Mills wrote "Don't Go Back to Rock."
Yes.
Yes.
He did because like some people say it's because of like the girl he was dating, but he's like, no, we weren't actually dating. They just they just liked each other, so it was almost like even makes it better,
And
right?
if I'm not
Because it's
mistaken,
that new.
Like flirtation.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, they're both still friends.
Are they? I don't know. I didn't.
sure
see
they
that.
are.
That would be cool.
If it's, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this, if it's on the internet, it has to be true.
Yeah,
It's
it must
true.
be true. But no, but I but it makes it more interesting to me that like that they liked each other. So it was like that beginning phase.
Innocence.
Yeah, that beginning phase where it's like you want so much of that
Well,
person, but her parents wanted her to go back home.
But the thing,
for the
thing
summer.
is like, because music, let's be honest, is pretty horrible these days. Like, so like,
Well,
if,
some of
you
it.
know, if you ask me, like, you know, what a perfect pop song is, like I would say, In Excess, Don't Change. Brilliant pop song, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant pop song.
Yeah.
But people don't view that as pop songs these days. Like, that's an amazing pop
amazing
song.
pop song.
A beautiful pop song.
It is.
Proper words, proper hooks, like proper everything. Like, makes you feel good.
Would that be one of your favorites on there?
I mean, South Central Rain.
South Central Rain.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
just-
there's just there's something so yearning about
Yeah,
that. That's
yeah.
just really yeah. I think I heard. I could pick just about any of these. I could pick any of these.
Well, the also good thing about that time period is when now like everything is like based on singles. Like it just sounds good as driving and listening to the whole record.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like a movie. It makes sense.
I read something where I don't know. Somebody said something. It's just like nobody's going to say that Camera is their favorite R.E.M. song. I'm just like I'm going to say that like when I
Camera
watch
is
this,
awesome.
Camera is incredible, and Camera. Every time I've listened back to this since you picked it and listened back to it, it's done exactly what it's always done for me,
Right.
and it made me just break down in tears.
Beautiful.
And like the interest that was actually a tribute to some places I read that they were dating, and some places I read that they were friends, and that she was the band photographer pretty much. But
Sure.
that Michael Stipe was dating. I don't remember her name, but she was a photographer.
Yeah. Yep.
And in between,
I heard the same name.
In between Murmur and Reckoning, I guess they were on tour, and she died in a car accident in Athens. And it's just like that makes it even more.
It's such a beautiful song.
Made me cry.
I mean,
There's
Don't
something-
Go Back to Rockville probably was the biggest song because then later on 10,000 Maniacs covered it.
Yeah.
You know? Right? 10,000 Maniacs
Yeah, I'm
covered
pretty
it.
sure that they did, yeah,
And
yeah.
that was probably the biggest song, but Camera was always the biggest song to me.
Yeah, I think Camera.
But South
there's
Central
something-
Rain is just like, I just love like people doing their own versions of goth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
for sure.
Like, you know, like, I could listen to Sisters of Mercy, but I could also listen to South Central Rain.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I
sure.
mean?
No,
Yeah.
I get that. I don't know. There's something about Camera. I think that line "Alone in a Crowd" has always just hit me. Like it's just gutted me. Like it's just really so.
Well, I mean, like one of the
powerful.
reasons why we've been, and you really are this old soul, and like you know, we've talked about like Neil Young, and holy cow, like amazing. And I couldn't listen to Neil Young for years because my ex-wife loved him so much, and if I heard him, I just wanted to like jump off a building, you know. And luckily now we're great friends, and I wish nothing but happiness. And I love
Heart of Gold
and
will
I-
still just destroy me
yeah,
whenever I hear it.
and I love Neil Young, but like it just shows you again the power of music. And whether if she watches this or not, like that's totally cool for me to say that. But like you know, you have this understanding of stuff, and I love it and I appreciate it. It's made me, you know, it's why we connect, you know. And like this stuff, it's like, you know, we love heavy stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what you meant. Funny you mentioned Neil Young. Ambulance Blues is that for me.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's 7.5 minutes long. I'm done within the first minute. I am bawling head in my hands. It's just such a raw and powerful song.
It's listen, it's magic. It's magic, and it's we're so lucky to even like talk about this now, man.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I love. It's right before Camera, but I love Letter Never Sent. Like just because I really like that. Like I like the punchy beat.
But also, like we talked about this in another episode. It's like, you know, one word. Like English language is not that special. Sorry, okay. And I write poems and songs. Actually, that sounded so like cocky, you know. But the thing is like But what's really beautiful is the way one word is next to another.
Right.
Letters never sent. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
like boom,
Right.
walk
Like,
out of
it's
the
like-
mic drop.
It's like that, like that.
yeah.
Just the title of that
boom,
song,
done.
right away,
Like, yeah.
right away.
Like that's a mic drop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
No, it's
unreal.
It is. I mean, it's like so. And what's interesting is like that, and it says it on the spine that it's the real name is File Underwater. That's
yeah.
really the name of the record. And the reason
I
they
love
call
that.
it Reckoning is because Mike Mills said because your sophomore record is like kind of always where like people are like summing you up, like they're like kind of
it's your
you have something to prove at that, like people are kind of
hands down, like
Right.
like people say you have like your whole life to write your first record.
yeah,
And then you got like 2
And then
months
you got,
to
like,
write.
right,
Second,
right.
Yeah. Well, good luck. You know what I mean?
What are your favorite songs on here? Like,
yeah, John.
The first, we all just touched on 3 of them. Don't Go Back to Rockville, South Central Rain, Camera. I love Letter Never Said. I love Second Guessing as well.
Oh, yes,
Because
yes.
that song
another
is
2
just
really
like,
beautiful words next to each
Yes.
other. Like
Yes.
second
I mean,
guessing.
no,
Heartbreaking.
Michael Stipe is like, he is a wordsmith. I think the only reason he doesn't
Well,
get...
you know, his hero was Patti Smith.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
holy,
oh, yeah,
holy
absolutely,
cow. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, amazing.
But like, I think that he doesn't get as much credit for his use of words on the earlier because I think it was so cryptic, but it really is. Even though he's cryptic,
Yeah,
it's still
but
so
the
incredible.
thing
Like,
is,
it has,
the thing is, I have whatever I do with my voice, whatever. No, but his voice straight up is an instrument.
yes.
It's like a French horn. Like,
what I thought was really interesting was like,
It's
okay,
who cares what he's saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
People's been trying to decipher sitting still for 40 years and they ain't done it yet.
when they recorded Seven Chinese Brothers, when they tried to record that,
Yeah.
you couldn't hear his voice.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
So I guess they I think it was Mitch Easter, right? He found another record that was in the recording
Yes,
studio,
Voice
and
of
it was
Harold.
a gospel. It was a gospel record, so he had him read just those with
Yeah.
Yes.
and that did end up being
And that worked.
Voice
The
of Harold. Well, no, they ended up putting that on like I don't remember which that's on with that with
It's
the backing of that.
it's
Is
Dead
it
Letter
Apollo?
or is that the
Dead Letter Office?
Dead Letter Office.
Dead
yes.
Letter Office, okay. And Dead Letter, all of them, like Dead Letter Office, Eponymous is, like
Actually, well, that's another episode. That destroys me.
Eponymous.
Yeah, it's just, well, again, we talk about this all the time on the show. Like, it's where you're at. Like, I mean, I remember like the person I was with and whoever.
Yeah.
woke
Is
up
Eponymous where they do Wires Strange? Because is that
think
one?
so.
Because that's the first time I had ever heard of Wire, and I always wanted to go back and check them out, and
And
I
that's
never
the great
did until,
thing.
like,
And that's the great thing is like when you hear like R.E.M. because we talk about punk a lot on the show, and R.E.M. covers like Mission to Burma, like fuck,
Oh, yeah.
And I love Mission to Burma and bands like Wire, the pop group, and even Minutemen. I've been listening to a lot of these Mike Watt interviews lately, and when D. Boone died, the guitarist of Minutemen, it was after they were touring with opening up for.
Yep, right.
R.E.M.
Right at the end of the Fables tour.
I did not know that.
And George Hurley and Mike Watt went one way, and D. Boone went with his girlfriend driving another way, and she fell asleep at the wheel.
my
and
God.
died, yeah. It's heartbreaking, like heartbreaking.
Seriously.
Yeah, played the Fox Theater in Atlanta, like holy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I never knew that.
1985, and I share a birthday with him, April 1st. Cheers to D. Boone. Cheers to the Minutemen. We've been talking about him a lot lately.
So-
insane though.
That is insane.
You know.
I mean, I think that kind of touches also on like the fact that it's like a lot of people don't necessarily think of it, but they were a punk band.
But we were talking about like
No, I'm saying,
we were
like,
talking about
R.E.M.
like
was a
Uncle
punk
Tupelo and Jeff Tweedy formed Wilco and
Yeah.
stuff. And Uncle Tupelo, like the time the stops was like very Minutemen like, And it's so funny because like when you write and you're fantastic. You're insane finger picker.
Thank you.
The way you play, And it's like
You are.
we're inspired, and we all take these little snippets from things, and then we just make them our own. Like Elvis Costello said, like, are you kidding me? Ripping somebody off is like the greatest form of flattery in the world. Like, whatever. I mean, I've been ripping off Joe Strummer and Tom Waits for 25 years. Like, and it's like, but make it your own, And they certainly did. But the crazy thing is, you can't even tell who they're ripping off because they're their own original American Southern Gothic.
For sure.
And it's amazing.
It's just every song on this album, it does not miss. it simply does not
And they
miss.
flow, so I mean, it really does kind of tell.
Well, it's like a beautiful, like it's just a beautiful, like, you know, film. And, well,
like film,
it
yeah.
really does help that their videos were that like grainy of them walking through bars.
I mean,
like
sure.
it just says it, like, are you kidding me? And the thing is like, you young muffin, because we grew up 120 minutes. Like you did see these videos, and it's like dark and grainy, walking through like straw and hay through these barns, and you're like, thank you for painting this picture.
Which is the video where they're like, where they're playing in like big bales of hay?
Is it Fall?
That's not Fall on Me, I don't think.
No.
Which
Fall-
is a great song.
Can't Get There From Here?
Favorite. Oh my gosh, I think it might be Can't Get There From Here. So it's just
Because that sounds in line.
I think everything from their videos to everything that they did really was, I mean, it really did sum up my vision of Athens that, yeah, you're right, it really does have, when you actually go there, it has that feel. And here's a weird thing, so when my mom,
Cassie.
My
She
mom,
has one name. She doesn't have a last name.
So my mom took me
She's
to...
like Cher. She's like Cher.
My mom took me to Liverpool for Beatles Week.
I know.
She's a huge Beatles fan, yes. And so but we also did a little bit of sightseeing while we were there.
I went to Liverpool to the Beatles store. It was awesome.
It was awesome. So
It was amazing.
we took an Uber, right? To get to, I don't know, something. And,
Shout out to your mom. I love your mom.
I love my mom too. Thank you. I hope she watches this. I'm gonna tell her.
I'm going to tell you a funny story. Met Cassie 27 years ago. And
You keep saying that it was almost 30.
30 years ago. We're hanging out. And she goes, yeah, I grew up with a military mom, this and that. And so like kids, when they diss each other, little kids like tell your mama jokes. And this kid would be like, your mom wears combat boots. She'd be like, I grabbed someone by the throat. She goes, you damn right.
I did not. But I did have a coffee mug that said my mom wears comic books.
There you go.
But but no, we got this Uber, and like so the guy, Liverpool guy, I don't remember his name. He was like talking to me, talking to us, and he's like, so where are you from? You know, my mom's like, oh, Florida. I live in Florida, and I'm like, yeah, I live in Atlanta.
English Russell.
English. So I live in Atlanta.
But in England, he's just Russell.
So I said, I don't. I live in England. He's just Russell. She's like, ba-ching. So he's like, is that like how far is that from Athens? And I'm like, it's not that far.
Because of music. That's
no. He turned around and he said, because I am a huge R.E.M. fan.
Well,
because
of music.
Yes,
yeah.
and I was just like, that's what originally brought me there.
Go to people go to Athens just because of a band they want to see. You know?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like that is really the reason why I ended up.
I mean, listen, I was in San Francisco a few years ago, and I was a new wave kid first and a punk rock kid, and I certainly didn't like or didn't get Grateful Dead. And the older I get, I kind of tell people I'll never wear sandals, but I think I'm kind of coming like an old hippie and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm in San Francisco, and then Ben Thrower, shout out Ben Thrower, best dude ever, he loved the Grateful Dead. So I'm like, So I listened to their first two albums, Working Man's Dead and American Beauty. Two great names of albums. And I'm like, oh, holy shit, there wouldn't be any Wilco without. Like Wilco basically ripping off Grateful Dead, you know? So, and then I went to a few shows, did a lot of drugs, and I'm like, holy shit, shit's good. So I text Ben Thrower and an ex-girlfriend who loved, her two favorite bands were Grateful Dead and Black Flag. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, they're both punk. And then shit changes. I have no idea where I'm going with the story. Yeah, but like the thing is like, that's it.
That's pretty much it. Well, we have to wrap up.
I was going to say, that's a hell of a way to end this.
We do have to wrap up. Is there anything else that?
Oh, okay. The reason is so I'm in San Francisco, and I was like, I want to go to the Grateful Dead house. That's the reason.
That's the reason.
I was like, yeah, man, because then my mind opened a little bit, and I was like, sorry guys to everyone out there, and we are fans, which means that's short for fanatics. We are music nerds, and that's why we do this show. But unfortunately, some bands are great, and some of their fans suck. Grateful Dead's great, and their fans, a lot of them are horrible. You know, so
I don't know a lot of Grateful.
But my point was, but I was like, oh man, I got it all wrong, and I've been to a bunch of.
And now you yeah.
Well, I dig the first few albums, and I'm open-minded to it. So let's just say, yeah. And
did this have anything to do with the really good LSD you got?
Acid in the desert changes everything. But the thing is, I was like, listen, if someone goes, oh, we're 4 blocks away from the Grateful Dead house, I was like, let's walk there.
I have never.
You know what I'm saying?
I graduated from high school just north of San Francisco, and I've never been to the Grateful
Dead. But my point is actually for JP, Jon Phipps, thank you again for being our guest, and much love and respect. come on to my house. Andy Gish came where. Cassie, I love you.
I love you.
It's like, yeah, if you're a fan of a band, you know listen, you're a fan of Rancid or Operation Ivy, you might want to go to Berkeley. Like you're a fan of this band, you're a fan of the Ramones, you're gonna want to go see where CBGB stood. It's why wouldn't you? Because we're fans.
Right.
And that's it. I'm out of here. No. Thank you so much.
Well, anything else you want to say about, real quick, because
Well, I'm just glad that we were able to finally do this.
I love,
Thank you, John.
and I love that.
You're so special, John.
Thank you, sir.
You
Thank you,
are.
brother.
You are.
You really
and
are.
You're so incredibly talented.
Thank you.
And I'm really, like, you couldn't have picked anything nearer to my heart, really.
Yeah, and the thing is, we try to. Well, actually, we don't try to do this. It's easy because it's our show, and so it's not about like this money or you know, it's about passion and people we love. You know, so you know, we adore you, and so it's easy to say try these compliments. Amazing finger picker, really talented poet.
Thank you.
But when I hear you read other people's poems, you know, what we need to do is build up your confidence, because I love you, and we need to build you up more. But you're a great read, like your voice is amazing, dude.
I think the
really
thing is that you have an authenticity and a conviction, like an emotional conviction that you put into things that a lot of people don't.
You understand stuff you're reading, and you translate to other people.
You project that.
And next thing you know, I'm naked in a closet crying. You know, it's amazing.
This has been really, really
Thank
fun.
you
I'm so
to
happy
R.E.M.
Thank you, R.E.M.
Athens, Georgia. Jon Phipps, come on to my house. BLT Fest, Star Bar, Cassie, James Joyce. I mean, listen, you know,
We're lucky.
Cassie and I, we just love doing this. And James, you know, are you kidding me? Miss James, and he'll be on the next one. Just everyone, be good to each other and put on this album this week.
Yes.
Because it's incredible. Thank you.
Cheers!